Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to Candy's Cozy Couch. My name is Candace, and my nickname is Candy. That is how I came up with that patriotic name. And that's right. Today is a day to be patriotic. Yes, today. It is morning. It is early morning, so it's not quite daybreak yet. Still dark like night outside. However, I do have a story to start your day off with, and I want to make sure that you guys are up and at 'em and getting yourselves ready for school and um, preparing yourself to honor a loved one or someone that you know, neighbors and friends, and those who have served in our military armed services for the United States. It is Veterans Day, November 11th. And so I was like, yep, I was going to read overnight. And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to read. And it was one of those I got to go to bed nights because I was kind of tired. But today is a new day. I'm wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go. Got a little camouflage going here, a little something to honor our military veterans. And I want to go ahead and get right to our story. So get yourself ready, and hopefully you are running through your morning checklist and you're knocking each item out one by one. You have a full belly from a well-balanced, complete breakfast this morning. Um, you got on your outfit, your clothing that you're going to wear for today. Maybe you even did everything in such a timely manner, not rushing or racing, but just with purpose and in a timely manner to where you have a few extra minutes. And in these few extra minutes, hopefully you have time for a little story. Today's story is a holidays book called Veterans Day by Brendan Flynn. Shout out to all the authors with the easy to pronounce names. So the holidays books are in this series. We have, what do we have here? Does that say? Well, anyway, we have Earth Day, we got Halloween, President's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Thanksgiving Day, Valentine's Day, and then this one is Veterans Day, a youth day of school, huh? I don't know what that's all I was looking at that like, what? But it seems there are so many holidays I don't even know about, so that might be one of them. All right, so we're going to get into it and learn a little bit about Veterans Day, so you kind of have a little understanding as you walk out the door to go to school, and I'm sure that there will be conversation at school as well. Chapter 1, Veterans Day. Flags are waving. A retired soldier gives a speech to a crowd. People cheer as a band plays. It's Veterans Day. Okay, that's what it says. And you see the picture. Our flags. Veterans Day happens each year on November 11th. It is a day to celebrate those who fought for our country. Sometimes Veterans Day falls on a weekend and people celebrate it on the closest Friday or Monday. All right, so you're going to see the calendar here, and the date that is circled is the 11th, and that is how you know what day is Veterans Day. All right, Chapter 2, War is Over. On November 11th, 1918, World War I ended. The two sides signed an armistice. Many people had died in the war, and everyone was happy that it was over. It was a pretty bloody war. And now you know the significance of November 11th being the day that we celebrate, because that was the day the war ended. The troops came home from the war. Their friends and family celebrated. 1 year later, the whole country got a chance to honor them. See that? It's a pretty extensive picture there. President Woodrow Wilson named November 11th, 1919 as the first armistice day. It was a day to celebrate peace. It was also a day to show respect for the war veterans. That's what it says. Chapter 3, Honoring Troops. In 1954, the government changed the holiday to Veterans Day. It would honor all veterans, not just those who fought in World War I. So we're including all of them. And unfortunately, that wasn't the only war that was fought. Many veterans are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. It is near Washington, D.C. The president gives a speech there every Veterans Day. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier remembers soldiers who died without being identified. So these were the soldiers that no one could tell who they were, or no one was aware or knew who they were. So they are honored as the unknown soldiers, but they're honored anyway. Chapter 4, Celebrations. Many schools and businesses are closed on Veterans Day, so perhaps maybe you are not going to school today. People celebrate with friends and family members who were in the military. Okay. There you are. People gather for parades. Some put flowers on the graves of their loved ones. They think about what veterans have done for the country. Most government officials are closed, Most government offices are closed on Veterans Day. Okay, so this is to honor and acknowledge. So we just take that time out. All right. And that is the end. So it's just a little something to give you an idea about Veterans Day. So hopefully you have a better understanding and a better connection. And I do actually have a couple other Veterans Day books as well that perhaps I will also read, not necessarily in this setting. I could. We could make it a twofer. Let's make it a twofer. Let's go ahead and read a second book. So this is another book entitled Holidays, and it's Veterans Day. Okay. So we might learn a little something extra in here. Holidays are times to have fun, but they are also times to remember. In the colorful series, find out how popular American holidays began. Meet the people who inspired these national holidays. Watch the first 4th of July fireworks display in 1777. Discover the people, places, and events that live forever in our holiday celebrations. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this particular book, because it kind of acknowledges, we're going to do Veterans Day. We're going to do Veterans Day by Linda Screenseam, I think. All right. Well, let's get to it. Veterans Day. Veterans Day honors the men and women who have served in America's armed forces. The armed or military services are America's Air Force, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine veterans. Veterans Day is a national day. It is celebrated on November 11th. Canada honors its veterans on Remembrance Day, which is also on November 11th. Veterans Day is a patriotic holiday. This day gives all Americans a chance to say thanks to veterans for helping to keep America strong and free. All right. So you see what the wordage is. Armistice Day. What we now call Veterans Day used to be known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day celebrated the day the fighting in World War I ended November 11th, 1918. Nearly 9 million soldiers from many nations died in World War I. And that war went from 1914 to 1918, like 4 years. 116,000 were Americans. Wow. World War I was supposed to be the world war to end all wars. No one knew then that an even more terrible war would follow, and that's World War II in 1939 to 1945. So as you can see, World War II was a longer war than World War I. Armistice. World War I lasted for 4 long, bloody years. France, England, Russia, and their allies fought against Germany and its allies. Canada joined the war against Germany in 1915. America entered the war against Germany in 1917. Although World War I ended officially with the signing of a peace treaty in 1919, the fighting stopped in 1918 with a ceasefire of armistice. The armistice began at 11 o'clock in the morning of the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918. All those 11s, that's 3 11s, 11, 11, 11. 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month. 2 minutes of silence. After the armistice had been signed, Australian writer George Honey had an idea. He suggested that people worldwide spend 2 minutes of silence remembering the soldiers killed in action. Honey's idea was very popular. 2 minutes of silence became a Veterans Day tradition. Many Veterans Day ceremonies still include the 2 minutes of silence at 11 o'clock in the morning of the 11th day of the 11th month. So we know that that'll be something that we do a little later on today. All right, Ernest James Dietz captured some of the terrible combat of World War I, the 1st Division Museum, okay, in this painting entitled I Have Assumed Command, on display at Canfigge, Wheaton, Illinois. Okay, so this is some artwork here. Give you guys a little visual there. Renaming Armistice Day. The first Armistice Day holiday was held on November 11th, 1919. It was celebrated in the United States every year until 1954. By 1954, America had fought in World War II and the Korean War, and that went from 1950 to 1953. Congress decided that America should have a day to honor all of the veterans, all of the war veterans, living and dead. Congress renamed Armistice Day November 11th because veterans became Veterans Day. The new holiday honored the peace of 1918 and all of the veterans of America's armed services. So that means no matter what, regardless of the war and the times, this day, all inclusively, honors our military people, everyone who served in the military. Tomb of the Unknowns. On November 11th, 1921, an unidentified, okay, I'm getting tongue-tied this morning, American soldier who had died in World War I was buried in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Today, this marble tomb at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia is called the Tomb of the Unknowns. Untitled soldiers from World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War are buried there. Each Veterans Day, a special ceremony honoring American soldiers killed in action is held at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Okay? Because unfortunately, sometimes they are so badly injured from the war that you just can't identify them. Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial lists the names of nearly 60,000 American soldiers who died in the Vietnam War, and that war went from 1965 to 1973. Each Veterans Day, a wreath is laid on the black granite memorial wall in Washington, D.C. The wreath is one way America honors and remembers veterans who died fighting the war in Vietnam. A large bronze sculpture of 3 American soldiers is also part of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And we're going to see the cover of this book. So boom, I'll show it. And this is the wall with all of the names. 60,000. It's a big number. Sheesh. All right, veterans organizations. Veterans organizations are groups of men and women who have been in the armed forces. They help organize and carry out ceremonies for Veterans Day and Memorial Day, May 30th or the 31st. They help care for disabled veterans and their families and the families of veterans who have died. Veterans organizations also tell Congress and the public about veterans' needs, interests, and concerns. 2 of the largest and oldest veteran organizations are the American League and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. See, we learned a little bit more. I'm kind of glad I did a twofer. Turned this into a twofer. And I'm okay with that. This is good. This is very good. Celebrating Veterans Day. Some offices and most schools are closed on Veterans Day. Towns have parades and invite veterans to make speeches about the importance of serving America in the armed services. Some schools invite veterans to share their experience with students. Many veterans are a very real part of American wartime history. The lessons they teach are some of the most important the students will ever hear. And that is just the final paragraph, and that is the end. So 2 good books. You got a twofer. Start your day off with. Okay? Now, boys and girls, go ahead and get yourself ready to head out to school and make sure your backpack has everything you need in it and your lunch is packed. And make sure you've said your prayers. Hopefully that was done prior to you waking up this morning, or maybe at breakfast while you eat. But we're going to take on this beautiful day. Happens to be a Friday. So that's the last day of school for the week. Yay, that's a celebration too. But honor and celebrate our military veterans and learn a lot today, because I'm sure that besides the 2 books that I read, you're going to learn some other tidbits too. All right? Have a good day, boys and girls. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.